Morning. Okay, hello everyone. This is HCD community meeting. Today we have October 5th and there is a couple of things on our agenda starting from Han. Can you kick it
Yes.
off?
Yeah, thanks. So I wanted to bring up our community approach to new members, especially in light of the new contributions that we've had, particularly the one with LiveZ ReadyZ. Um, there's a lot of sort of contentious arguments going on in the design doc, and I realized that like there are contentious points to it, but I think it would be good to have some sort of a framework for approaching these things so that we don't necessarily end up bike shedding for infinity, because that's not generally, you know, new member friendly. And I actually really appreciate Chow's approach to drive this stuff forward. So thank you, Chow. Like I genuinely appreciate that. Um, like, you know, one of the things that actually
Yeah.
like bothers me about this, like I understand the need to be cautious about etcd because it is a correctness based database, right? And correctness is literally its job. And so like small details can drastically affect whether etcd is doing its job correctly. And I 100% believe that. However, the changes in question didn't touch any of the correctness code base. In fact, it was more about adding new functionality, which uh, doesn't touch the consensus or consistency stuff. So those considerations, I think, are not valid for the conversation that we're having. Um, but having some sort of guidelines for like constructive feedback, like how to resolve it when like people are disagreeing about approaches, like maybe deferring it for a later PR or something like this, right? Like I think it would make for like a healthier community and a friendlier approach to doing stuff. And that is just my opinion. I don't know if it's shared by others.
I can agree that there was a lot of contention. I can agree that writing design docs is hard, and especially and also writing design docs about things that people have a strong opinion on is even harder. Um, like historically, there were not a lot of design docs. I think like last big feature that was designed and like implemented, or let's say started implementation, was a downgrade design, and we basically, I think it was like over 2 years, and like the community changed a lot. Um, Last design by Benjamin, I don't think it was accepted. So like maybe that there is some um, we are like lacking things in process. So I would definitely want to get and act on this feedback. If anyone has any like proposals how we can make it easier, that would be great. I think there was, I don't know, discussion about having more um, official process.
Caps, yeah, caps
Yeah,
probably.
maybe question, do we want to focus more on design or like as a process, or do you think, like you also mentioned, PRs? Because like this one, I mean, it doesn't happen frequently, but but from time to time some PRs get more discussion there. But definitely design is something on like really much more raw process than and new.
Bogdan has his hand up, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that let's look at the details. What happened? Where were the most issues? I know I commented on one specific issue, and I think all the comments I had are resolved. So, like in this case, I think we just need to like take as an example, like what will be like, for example, for this particular the thing I comment on was just basically adding another health checker, which is the index, the commit index checker, right? So what will be the better approach for that particular issue? Because I don't think it's like, I mean, it's probably relatively okay to discuss this, you know, like, I mean, maybe maintainers can like then say, well, okay, you know, I made a decision, this is how it's going to be, you know, like it's also like certain points like people will never really agree completely, right? So I mean, at some point you just have to call it, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's about people don't comment or don't have suggestions and we or don't disagree. We definitely should have that happen. It's a community. We should have that happen. Just and then Bogdan, thank you for adding those comments. That's why the design is public and we welcome all the different opinion because everybody have suggestions from their different aspect, and we do need to consider all the stakeholders' aspects to make the things that we design actually useful, valuable for all the community. I think it's just the way that like being a community there, let's all try to be more friendly. I mean, there are the now that SD being a SIG, than just like a individual, you know, open source project. I think it's a good time to embrace a lot of good cultures in the rest of the Kubernetes community. And then some of the process we can think of, like mentioned the CAP, there are some good things about it. I think this is a great topic. Let's continue, you know, comment on this thread, and then James and I and the TLs, Benjamin and Marek, we can think of something that actually actionable going forward for PRs and designs and see how to make the process easier for everyone. Especially at this moment, we do want more community members to join, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. It just, I think the concrete and details, it will be, I think, more helpful, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and do you want to continue? I just wanted to note that we will, like Wenja, I noted that as Wenja mentioned, like leads should, like we should release. I'm thinking about release our
Contributor process, yeah, that would be great. And you know, my suggestion is to defer difficult decisions when possible, to have a dedicated community meeting so that we can talk about it, and using a framework like Rapid, where you have like recommenders, advisors, I can't remember all the other things, and the D is for decider. That way, like we have a framework for like resolving contentious decisions. I think this is like necessary, otherwise we can end up in a deadlock. And we, as software engineers, we all know we don't want to get into deadlock situations, right? Like okay, but I think that's, we should probably time box that. But I thank you everyone for considering this. I really appreciate it.
yeah. Next topic
should
is
I-
from you.
Yeah, it's also for me. So today there was an announcement, and I will show it. I will share it in the. I believe Microsoft also had an announcement on LTS versions for Kubernetes, right? And this seems to be a growing trend among cloud providers to say that there's going to be LTS support without first reaching out to the community to see if, in fact, the community is willing to support these things past the stated supported version windows. This is obviously a weird thing to be doing because, you know, etcd has a policy on what we're supporting, Kubernetes has a policy on what's supporting, and then cloud providers randomly saying, "Oh, by the way, we're just going to support these things all the way back." I don't know if that means like they're going to push security fixes upstream, because you have to actually ask the upstream, processes about these things. But there is some natural implication here for etcd, since etcd is a dependency of Kubernetes, and etcd versions are pegged to Kubernetes versions, at least in open source. And therefore, there is some implication about etcd support for LTS Windows. Does that make sense? So it is something that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't see that it's different for us as a project, right? Because as part of their LTS support, what's going to happen with the project is part of the LTS support is vendors are going to push security patches, et cetera, towards us, or they're not. And if they do, we can deal with it. I mean, I happen to work for a vendor that already is supporting stuff for 5 years, and offers any patches to this project that are relevant to etcd.
I mean, upstream has etcd has been a little bit more generous about accepting backported security fixes, but Kubernetes generally has not backported fixes past the support window. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
So
and it would be up to us to decide how much of that we want to accept.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the reason for Kubernetes doing it is that anything going into Kubernetes has to go through the whole test framework. And Kubernetes only supports a certain number of versions on the test framework because there's a lot of overhead involved. And I think, our numbers are smaller, but it's not a different situation. Right? It's a question of at what point does it become painful for us as a project to evaluate the incoming patch, and we figure out what that point is and we make a policy. And then if a vendor really wants to change that policy, they can hire a bunch of etcd contributors in order to extend our support backwards. Mark, you're muted.
Yeah, I think we should probably have some sort of policy of support, like especially like how long we're going to support things. And
to give you maybe some context, like before HexFusion left, who was the Red Hat maintainer, etcd supported all 5 releases, or all 5 version 3 releases. Technically, the only latest 2 versions were supported by like the community, but there was dedicated person that maintained the previous 3 releases because it was used by OpenShift. That was like the scheme of assuming if we have a maintainer that is willing and have time to do a decent job, so everyone can officially sign up that we are maintaining all versions, I don't think it would be like as a big problem. However, the main reason we cut versions 3.4 and earlier was, twofold. Like we had only 2 maintainers, so we needed to reduce it already. And second, the same case like Kubernetes, test infrastructure for test configuration and infrastructure for versions older than for 3.3 is totally broken. Like it's unmaintainable because it's written in totally different way. Like it's written in frameworks that or CI that is no longer supported even.
Yeah.
So it would be a huge effort to introduce same level of testing.
Right. So, I mean, my suggestion is that we make a policy out of the reality, so that just everybody knows. Put it on our website somewhere saying, "Hey, we support the current version and 1 version back."
Yeah.
And if one of the vendors wants to change that, they'll do it by putting people on it and fixing the 3.3 test infrastructure.
I think there is a page for release management. I don't know if that's on website. I've been moving things back from website to the main repository because there is difference between contributor documentation and user documentation. And problem was like the documentation.
Oh yeah, you're right. We actually already have that. Although interestingly, hold on. Let's see. Yeah, and we are already saying that's the policy. This is the policies that we support one version and one version back.
Yeah. So, Han, would you want to change the current status? Do you think we should expand on it, or are you okay with that, bringing the idea to the
I'm okay with the idea. Obviously, as a cloud vendor that's on an older version, like this affects actually our ability to even release newer versions of etcd. That becomes a repercussion. So that part is not addressed anywhere. Which we should probably have some policy for, and because it's basically seat of our pants at the moment, I think.
Can you repeat? Sorry, I have problems with my speaker. We need what policy we need?
Policies about when we end up cutting new versions, new minor versions. Because right now it's the seat of our pants, and there is no defined policy about cutting new minor versions. In fact, we haven't done so in many years. And this is, I think, a result of various cloud providers being on older etcd versions.
I mean, to clarify, like why we haven't cut a new version is that around a year ago I defined the scope. So basically, finished two major features that were meant for 3.6, as like because we could not make a release halfway of those developing those features, so we needed to finish them first. The problem that surfaced is no one worked on those issues, on those features after. So basically that was only like recently Gita has gone back to V2 deprecation, and the second, which is the downgrades, I haven't have time. So I think the policy, yes, there is no unwritten policy because it's mostly based on decision. What features do we have enough features to make cut a release, and will the release that we are planning be useful enough for users and brings enough value that they will upgrade? Yeah. Okay. Let's maybe time box it, and I think we can. If you have any proposal about the details or how the policy should look like, I'm happy to look through it, and I know we can discuss it on issue. Going to the next topic, which is from me, just an FYI, because I don't think want to leave more time for others. High level, like maybe we got unlucky or what something our nightly testing has found some issue with linear usability, but it's very, 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 very rare apparently. So it's hard. I'm still trying to figure out whether it's a real issue or if it's just a hardware issue, which is also possible. If anyone is interested in, like, this is mostly call to action. If anyone is interested in etcd correctness, would be grateful if people can help investigate. Going to the next topic, Josh, do you want to cover the?
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple. I put up a grid for staffing the etcd kiosk in the project pavilion at KubeCon. So for anybody on this call or listening to this call who's going to be at KubeCon, please put yourself down for at least one shift, if not a couple of shifts, to help us be there and meet etcd users and other contributors and potential contributors.
Hi, I have a quick question. So what does this really entail in terms of like work that needs to be done? I don't mind signing up for a shift, but just kind of want to understand what needs to be done at the kiosk. Just for a heads up.
It's just talking to people. It's a, what's the etcd project? I mean, the people who come up are usually people who use etcd, and sometimes have troubleshooting questions. We get a lot of those. And people who are interested in contributing to etcd, and then of course we want to actually sort of guide them towards, oh hey, here's the places where you can contribute. Unlike some of the other projects, so we don't really need to educate people that much on what etcd is, because at KubeCon people are mostly familiar with it.
Sweet. Okay, thanks a lot.
So really the required knowledge is you have to have used etcd. That's pretty much it. If you've used etcd at least once, then you're qualified to help with the kiosk.
Wait.
You're always welcome to come and hang out.
Yeah, we can, like, last results we made the group photo, so that was I think the requirements. You need to be able to join us for a photo and hang out. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Gita's topic about V2 deprecation.
Hey, yeah, so I wanted to use some time to sync up on this. This hasn't been contentious, but it's been a bit confusing. So I keep using time from this meeting to make some progress. What's happened now is that Benjamin has pushed part of the changes that were in the V2 deprecation PR into the main branch now, 3.6 branch. So what remains is the validation though. So Marek, I want to understand how do we move this forward?
Yeah, sure. So, like, for me, like the reason for or the main contention, like during discussion of version 2 API, is it's again a multi-dimensional problem that I wanted to make sure that we do in proper steps. And one thing I like, for me, changing the validation is not a correct in-between step. It's why? Because etcd, like, if we release at that point, etcd would be broken. The reason is that if you change the validation, the way or what is unique about membership changes is that not only it's important what is the latest state, but what is that, like, when you transition and apply each or execute each entry, what does the validation execute the same way? So if you replay the log, like each member, like let's say you have a cluster of many members and you crash every one of them at a different time, and maybe or kill them, and then change with other version of etcd, like let's say 3.5, 3.6, but you maybe upgraded, you decided to upgrade. The fact that you're changing just the validation means that when the log will be replayed, the validation might put it in different, like, give different results. And if one member thinks that adding the member was validated because based on V2 state, and other member based on V3 state says one says yes, validation passes, second one says no, that's bad. So basically, having same part of wall currently that is only validated by the version 2, and or the wall that I'm talking about is the wall between from last snapshot to version 3. Yeah, and having this is currently validated by version 3. For me, version 2. for me, validating, going to version 3 or validating both or validating only version 3 doesn't make sense. In 3.6, we should just jump and stop reading this part of wall. We should jump to 3.6 version 3 and replay from that. So the validation needs to go from the change that introduces changes the bootstrap moment. So basically, what is the seed of the new Raft cluster state, which is both reading Raft, not only reading the membership information, but also reading the Raft. So basically, what happens when you bootstrap etcd is etcd looks for last snapshot and looks for Raft index of the last snapshot, and then reads the Raft up to this index. Yeah, and then replays it until you get to version 3, and then plays both. What we want to get is basically not read the Raft index from last snapshot, but read it from database or from DB, and then validate only version 3. Does it make sense?
So to rephrase it, sorry, begin the replay at consistent index. Would that be right way to put it?
Yes, and the draft PR that I sent introduces like both the change of, or I tried to implement like quickly reading it from consistent index, and second, changing the validation.
Okay, so if when I spend time on this, I should try to take, so the failures, this PR has failed bunch of tests. So we should try to take this forward, figure out what's going on with those tests and go from there, retire the other PR. Is that the way forward?
Yeah, my proposal would be not consider just changing the validation, just switch validation, consider broader task of never reading version 2 state. Like basically, like in the draft PR, my goal was to remove all the code that reads version 2 state, because this is the state that is read from based on last snapshot, and initializing Raft based on consistent index, and making version 2 like the field that is used everyone nil, because all the code currently already handles if version 2 code is nil. We just need to make it always true. Like, so basically the only thing that is like one step is make version 2 always nil, and second is clean up version 2 code, like even like accessing it, which it's easy to separate. Makes it if the code works, like if you make it always nil and then merge the PR and then you just clean up the version 2, it makes it a trivial change because it should work already.
Just have a quick time check. Guitar, if you still have problem, pushing this through, let us know. We can have a design meeting, and then, or we can have a chat space like on the Slack to continue talk about it. I feel like you probably see the similar issue where like it's hard to push through. Yeah, let us know. Okay.
That will help. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I see that
we have to leave. Oh, very good. Leave to you. See.
Yeah, last quick announcement from I think Wenja is we are doing the mentor, starting the mentor program, and Menti-Mentor powering is happening now. Yeah, we'll have results before the next meeting. Thanks everyone, and sorry for going out of time. See you in 2 weeks.
Oh, one more topic. Should we have etcd bug triage meetings?
That's a big topic.
Yes, let's do it next meeting, but we should put it on the agenda.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks. Bye.